And then honestly, one of the most badass saints, and I mentioned her already, is Saint Joan of Arc. I mean,
yeah.
if you want to look at like just crazy heroic, she was like
girl power.
big time.
Yeah.
16-year-old leads an army, gets shot in the neck, survives, and then gets burned to death for like no reason whatsoever.
Which is by far the worst death, I think.
Easily.
Easily.
Like your eyes burn,
Ugh.
you can't breathe, it's hot, it's uncomfortable, people are probably throwing things at your head.
Yeah.
And you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're 16 years old.
And all she did was call out Jesus' name.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry.
And I cannot wrap my head around, like, it's 2021, we're supposed to be like, you know, not have as many sexist issues. Granted, we still have some, but not as many as they did in, you know, the 1400s. But yet, like, could you imagine a 16-year-old leading an army, a 16-year-old female leading an army today?
Yeah.
Like, how did that fly hundreds of years ago? Like, how desperate were they? No offense, but like, like, you know what?
And also someone who was hearing voices.
Right.
From
hearing voices. She's a kid.
Yeah.
And like, you know
what?
A girl. It's about the best idea we've heard so far.
We're gonna go with you.
Fun fact, if you want to learn more about her, Mark Twain wrote a book about Joan of Arc. And he claimed that it was the best book that he had ever written.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and I will plug my friend Michael, who I think it's one of his favorite books. So really good book, historical fiction, really fun. The like she's leading army, right? So what are soldiers, right? They're usually the roughest, toughest, grungiest kind of people. They swear, they cuss, and so like the meanest one, I think, if I recall from the book correctly, like he wouldn't swear in front of her because he always felt bad. like you just said, they really tie in kind of those characters and behaviors. Great book. Recommend it. Now Michael has a saint. Not to, like, look, Michael, we're gonna be talking about you, so I hope you listen to this episode.
We were talking about you before the.
But yeah, his saint is Saint Michael the Archangel, which is a super killer one.
Also, my boyfriend's saint, not to plug here,
that's
too.
Good point.
But Michael.
Way to tie that into it.
Yeah.
So one thing, like, your name's meaning is another thing that my mom always told me. She's like, your name is Joseph, or Joseph means God shall add.
Oh, yeah.
Like all these things.
Yep.
Michael means who is like God. So there's a tall order to try to put on a name.
That, and I don't know, I don't think doesn't fall into the category of like sinless, because I don't think they are, but crazy, angel.
Right.
Like, amazing.
Right.
Okay, so I have to just quickly tell you the meaning of my name.
Okay.
Which I think is hilarious.
Okay.
It is bitter.
Bitter.
Bitter. The Hebrew term. Bitter and, humble is also in there, but I like to lead with bitter.
I like to lead with bitter.
I like to lead with bitter.
You need a little bit of the bitters in there.
That Mary, the sinless saint, Mother of God, named bitter.
Interesting. I'm surprised I've never heard that.
Yeah, I saw it on
awesome.
My mom bought a name card for me one time, and I was like, that's great. So now I lead with that. But humble is also in there as well.
That's amazing. There's another option. So we've covered if you're named after a saint, your confirmation name, a saint you pick because you like that saint and you think that you can relate to them well. Could be.
Sorry, I have to interrupt for 1 second.
Do so.
I'm so sorry. St. Jude is another one.
Yes.
Of which
I have a son. I have a son named Jude.
Impossible causes.
Ancient saint for impossible causes. Like, absolutely. Which is like, I feel like most of the things I pray about.
I was gonna say, I feel like I pray that to every saint. So I'm always like, well, I guess I'll throw St. Jude in there because he's the patron.
Most of my prayers are like, God, if like all problems were gone and I had $1 million, I would like that, and world peace if you could throw that in, but not required.
But I'm asking St. Jude, so obviously you should come.
But I mean, right.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, very good point. Which my son's name is Jude. My father's middle name is Jude. Which an interesting story about that. His name is Craig, and he turned 70 last month, which is weird to me.
Happy birthday to Craig.
Yeah, and so way back then, we thought it was hard to pick a saint when you were confirmed. When they went to baptize him, it was like a really big deal if you did not have a saint for baptism.
Yep.
And so my mom was talking to, or my grandma was talking to the priest, and she's like, well, you know, we want to get baptized. You're like, what's his name? He's like, Craig. He's like, that's not a saint name. And she's
Can't
like,
do
well, what do we have to do? And they're like, well, change his name, obviously. And he's like, oh, I don't know that.
Let's
But
hope that
the
helps.
priest is like, well, what's his middle name?
Oh,
And she
yeah.
said, Jude. And he goes, well, he's the Prince of Impossible Causes, so I guess I'll let it slide.
That's awesome.
So that's how my dad got baptized.
The
but
olden days.
the other way you can do it too is you can, if there's something you're struggling with, there's usually a patron saint of that issue, like you said with
Oh,
Saint
sure.
Dipna, right?
Yep.
Or you can just go real obscure. So our first, mine and my wife's first child's name is Charlotte, and we say that she's named after Pope John Paul II or Saint John Paul.
I know
Which there is a way to get there. You got to take a couple of detours, and it's not a direct line. But Charlotte is the female version of the name Charles, which is the Polish name for Charles is Karol. And before Pope John Paul II became Pope John Paul II, his name was Carol. So that is the path that Charlotte gets to.
Pretty awesome, though.
But not that much unlike what did you say the name your sister Megan?
Margaret.
Margaret, right? So
Yeah.
and we do that kind of with Elena. I think we always kind of said her saint was Helen.
Okay.
Which you got to do some work there. But again, the point of it is right to have a saint that leads you to Christ, that you can look at as your guidance, that you can relate to, right? Because we all want to get to Christ, but it's a journey and it's a path. Doesn't happen overnight, and we need that team. We need those helpers along the way, and to have them and to know people that really reflected Christ, maybe better than I do myself. I don't want to speak for you.
No.
That have been through it, that have met some challenges.
Yeah.
That have still reflected Christ in a great way throughout some of the sinful challenges that I am a part of. So
I just thought of something actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, completely random. I've never thought of this. So as you know, my brother passed away 2 years ago in February, and I always said that I would, like, if I ever had a son, I would want to name him Andrew.
Yep.
Even before Andrew was sick, because I love the name Andrew. Andre is French for Andrew.
Well, look at that.
And I like Andrew, my brother was like my best friend, very close. And so I just think that there is another connection that I have put in my corner to have Andrew and Andre in there.
Yeah.
So if I was to name my son Andrew, still tying into my patron,
Absolutely.
my confirmation saint.
Absolutely.
So again, just thought of that for the first time ever. And
Wow.
maybe just again, that connection to your saint can do those kind of things. And I'm not just saying that, and we talked about it before the podcast. I literally just thought of it.
Yeah.
So
I can attest to that. Well, I don't know that you just thought of it, but I believe you.
no, I did. That's why.
But we didn't talk
flabbergasted.
about it. So
Yeah.
But that's really, really cool because sometimes I think, God brings the saints to us more than we look for them, right?
Yep.
And you see the things that he's put in place ahead of time, ahead of schedule.
Yep.
Which is really beautiful. So that's a really cool revelation.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's those, I think it is very important. When I taught confirmation classes and we talked about the saints, I always said that it was really important to not just pick one. It's so easy to pick one because you like a name or you like whatever. And I get it. But to really find one that even if you're just flipping through the saint book and one just kind of pops out and you're just like, oh, okay. It might have a really weird name, which a lot of saints do.
Yep.
But again, my boyfriend, Mike, he picked St. Gregory because he was the patron saint of music and he kind of liked music. He didn't feel any connection to him, but now Mike plays music all the time. And now he feels a connection to him. So I think in some way, St. Gregory and God was already working in his life, even if he didn't feel a connection at the time.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Anyway.
And I mean, it's one of the beautiful things about being Catholic, I think, that is that, God gives us all of these helpers, these tools to help us in our journey. He knows the world that he put us into. And he didn't abandon us, not personally, but also he gave us a whole, hundreds of people. And I think that's one of the beautiful things too, is I know that my family, during our night prayers, every night we say, at the end of our night prayers, we say, Andrew and Maria, pray for us. Andrew being your brother, who obviously we believe is a saint in heaven, and Maria is our miscarriage that we had. So
I never knew that.
yeah,
I knew about the miscarriage. I didn't know she had a name. That's very
we named
beautiful.
her Maria after the Blessed Mother. Yep, absolutely.
Giving
So
her a complex.
yep.
But now she's with Mary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, amazing.
Yep. In fact, my
Doesn't lessen
sister,
the pain.
Mary, gave us a card when we were going through that miscarriage. It said the most beautiful thing in the world on it. Like, people, it's hard to, know what to say to people in any type of a death situation. And she gave us a card, and the card said, just imagine the first thing your child saw when they opened their eyes was the face of God.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
wow, man. Like it still hurts, but that
Oh.
actually helps a bit.
Oh my God. And of course, it probably like in the moment you're like, so like you're like, because you're feeling the pain, you're in it. But now, like, how incredibly beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get all teary eyed. Yeah.
So
That's amazing. That's an incredible way to think about it.
yeah, absolutely. So know that there's those people out there for you. There are saints out there. Don't feel any shame. Like sometimes you'll find a saint that helps you for a spot in life, and maybe that saint isn't one that you hopefully you continue those relationships for a long time. But sometimes there's saints I have for a season, right?
Yeah.
For a season of my life, and don't feel any shame in that if that they were there to help you for a rough patch that you were in. And there's saints that'll be with you your whole life. I mean, they'll all be with you your whole life, but there's those ones that you'll keep those close relationships with. If you don't have any right now, go find a book of the saints, or there's a wonderful thing called the internet out there. You can look up saints all over the place. You can find out, what, I'm struggling with this. Well, who's the patron saint of it? And you will find probably 5 different choices. Go read about their history and ask them to pray for you, because they are up there wanting to do that.
I mean, they're not doing anything else.
Right.
They're
literally
there to help. This is what I always
on.
say. Like when I say my prayers, I get a little sassy, and I'm like,
Yep.
you're literally up there to
What
help.
better do you have?
You're literally living in paradise. What can you do to help me out here?
And I think it was St. Teresa the Little Flower that said, "I will spend my my heaven doing good on earth." So I think, I struggle with, I have different conversations with people that, don't understand the Catholic view of the saints and how that points us to God. And I just think, how tragic is that too, if you lose a loved one, to think, well, they're up there, they don't care about me. Like, no, they probably care about you more than they did when they were here. So they want to help us. They see our struggles and they want to help us through them. And they are there. They are with God.
I mean, I always think to myself, like with Andrew and my mom, who is up there as well, and my other brother, Eric, like they're like, I just think of it always as like, obviously not in the time when I lost them, where I was very bitter.
Right.
My namesake. But also like, how cool, like that they get to be together. Like that was like one of the things, like that was probably one of the hardest things to come to terms with, but also like one of the biggest comforts to be like, they're up there. Like I hopefully will see them again someday if I live all right on this earth. But like how cool, like that they I imagine them being together, and that is one of the biggest comforts to me. So
yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for spending time with me on this podcast. I think the most I think this podcast does more for me than probably anybody that listens to it, because as I talk through these things and I hear some of the things that you have to share and the things that you have to deal with, I always end up leaving or finishing a podcast with a new perspective and a new fire to continue continue on this journey.
Well, and hopefully it brings up, like, for me, it's like, I already have like these conversations in my head that I want to continue having with you or with other people, like things I never thought about, which I think is really cool. And which, like, again, opens up the doors to like conversation, which I said, like, going back to the very beginning, like the tattoo that people get on their outside of their bodies,
right,
to me is always like a door opening for conversation, which I think,
because a lot of times it's hard to bring something up, but once someone asks a question, that door's open.
Absolutely.
And if you're anything like me, it doesn't close too easily.
We can go on
She'll
forever.
keep going.
We can go on.
So, well, thank you for being with me. This was awesome.
This was a blast.
I think we'll probably break this up into a few because we killed it. So
We
thank
got
you so much.
Thanks for stopping